be a book or a band name or something. Hopefully
Digital
it does.
disembodiment. That's it. Digital disembodiment. One thing that I do want to talk about, I want to complain about Andrew Cuomo. Um, Andrew Cuomo, as you know, in New York, governor of New York, at one point, Democrats were trying to draft him into the party, and they were like, yeah, we need somebody else because they don't think Joe Biden could carry the burden. They were willing to do Bloomberg, but they ended up with Cuomo. Cuomo is sitting in New York responsible for like 20,000 deaths. Let's be very clear. Cuomo, who also was responsible for slipping in an amendment or slipping in a provision to protect nursing homes, those nursing homes which became death traps, as Cuomo ensured that testing couldn't take place on residents he was shoving into those areas. Now, nursing homes have gotten to the point where they're dumping people in order to make a profit by bringing in additional government funds as opposed to people who can't necessarily pay. So putting those people in homeless shelters or just kicking those people on the streets. Now, despite all of that, Cuomo failed miserably. Nevertheless, Cuomo is still out here attacking Trump. Let's play this clip. Let's listen to Cuomo have his anger fest at Donald Trump over COVID-19 response.
A phased reopening is better than reopening and closing. That is not just a premise. It's been proven by the past experience. Look at the states that reopened recklessly and are now closing again. Who did that help? It actually set us back. So, Mr. President, don't be a co-conspirator of COVID. Do one simple thing. Acknowledge to the American people that COVID exists. It is a major problem. It's going to continue until we admit it and each of us stands up to do our part.
Donald Trump has never said COVID didn't exist. He might have lied and said that, the Chinese, as soon as they got on an airplane, it just spread all across America. The moment that they got into the plane and wheels went up. He may lie about that, but he has not made any thing saying it doesn't exist. He may try to ignore it. He may live in this kind of emancipatory denialism. All of that's true, but he hasn't said it didn't exist. I mean, after all, you have a CDC, you have Fauci, you have all of these guys talking about it. So it's not that. I think I take issue with this because Cuomo is infinitely culpable for the deaths in New York. I mean, Cuomo closed a week behind California, and that week has the difference of thousands of lives. And then when Cuomo was asked, hey, is there anything that you could have done differently? Is there any situation where you have made deaths on your conscience? How do you sleep at night? He said, I sleep fine because, I don't think there's any deaths that I could have prevented that I didn't prevent. You're responsible for thousands of deaths. Your reaction to this, you're slow-footing, closing the economy. The information that was gathered in California was sent to Cuomo, and it still took extra time for him to close. New York has like 10 and 20,000 deaths. Do you realize 42% of all the deaths that happen from COVID-19 happen in nursing homes? Those same nursing homes that Cuomo shoved those people in while all of a sudden also stopping the ability to test and then providing protections for those nursing homes. This man is infinitely responsible for many of those deaths in New York. And now he's sitting here trying to throw the ball at Donald Trump saying, admit that COVID exists. Get out of here. You admit that COVID exists. You do that. And you deal with the tens of thousands of deaths that your state, under your leadership, has basically allowed. Shane, thank you for allowing me to complain about that, because Cuomo is sitting here as if I've done everything right and now I'm going after Trump. Nobody. That condemnative finger needs to be pointed back at you. You failed miserably. That's where I'm at. That's my rant. I'm annoyed about that.
I'm smoking over here, not literally. I'm smoking over here by the mic just because you're so fiery, man. That was a lot of heat coming off. No. I mean, I agree. I mean, here's a weird conspiracy theory. Maybe it's not even technically a conspiracy theory. I don't know what kind of word I should use other than conspiracy for this kind of theory. But
call it a hypothesis.
Yeah, okay, sure. My hypothesis here. Cuomo's doing pretty well, as far as I can tell, reputation-wise. His polling numbers seem pretty good. What if there's this weird system of perverse incentives where governors around the country kind of have this incentive to fail at dealing with COVID because they're going to be seen as leaders struggling to manage this crisis? I just heard somebody say that, and just this idea. I don't know. Incentives do such terrible things if we're not aware of
They
them.
do. Yeah, they do.
That's
I mean, they
all.
have
That's all.
horrible consequences sometimes. So yeah, I agree with you on that. So wait,
Also, you
that's the idea that basically they're letting it crash in order to. Now, I would agree with you on this part. I don't know about the COVID thing because sometimes when it's too close to home, people can blame like local governments in their response. But I agree with you entirely on issues of the economy. Like when I said this months ago, when Nancy Pelosi went out, and Nancy Pelosi would basically pass anything that Trump does. And then they would pass a showpiece of a bill that has no opportunity for passing at all, meaning in the House of Representatives. She's just being opposition, but she's being weak, feckless opposition. But I would wager that part of that weak and fecklessness is basically to say Trump failed on his own merits. So Pelosi, in this kind of scorched earth politics, and the Democrats in Congress basically are, yes, weak and ineffective in general, but in this very specific case, weak and ineffective because they don't want to give Donald Trump any potential for a win. They want him to drown in his own incompetence, which basically, unfortunately, means a lot of people dying from COVID and a lot of people being materially harmed. But from their standpoint, that helps them politically to make their argument against Trump.
I agree. You're familiar with the ship of fools thing from Plato? This idea.
No, what's the triple fools? Go for it.
So
Explain.
ship of fools is this parable about a bunch of people on this ship, and the person who's supposed to be steering the ship is blind. He has skill though, but he's blind. I might use the word they. I think that's a more current thing than he. But regardless, they're steering the ship, but they're blind, and so they need the help of the people on the ship to help them steer the ship. And everybody on the ship is a fool. They're arguing about things that have nothing to do with steering ships. They're just infighting, basically. It's just modern politics, effectively. And then eventually the implication is that the ship crashes somewhere. I think we have long ago thrown out the captain. There is nobody who's leading the ship.
Yeah.
Everybody's bickering. Everybody's arguing. Whether it's party politics or public politics, mass politics, any domain that we're operating on here, any level, it's all a mess. And in that wreckage, in the rubble that we're sort of living in, it's up to us to try to build something up. Now it's hard because we're going to have to build on rubble, and it's not going to be easy clearing a place to build. But I don't know. That's my extended metaphor here. That's how I feel about this whole political process. Now we can start that building while we're still living in this system. I don't think we need to wait. I don't think that anything needs to be reserved. Maybe some things need to be reserved until there's some significant changes, some phase shifts, some would say. But regardless, there's stuff we can do now. That's what I'm really interested in. Now, what's hard about that is you start local, you start small, your impact is going to be small, and you're always going to be susceptible to these larger pressures. So there's that body of complications, but still, I think that's the right level to start on. Maybe we can continue this
nowhere else to
conversation.
go. Yeah.
Let's
Let's continue it on the other side of it. Go for it.
Absolutely.
We'll
We're going to
be
be
back
going
in a
into a
moment.
break. Yep. Fault lines with Thomas and Stranahan. Be back.